Why is it that in these times it's become important to work differently with the complex problems that we're facing?
I think our work is premised on the observation that most of us, most leaders, are facing a context which is unfamiliar. They're facing contexts which are much more complex, and much more complex in three different ways: dynamically, socially, and generatively. And the ways that worked for simple contexts just don't work for these more complex contexts. They just don't produce the results that we want. And so, because the context has changed fundamentally, the approach has to change fundamentally. And that's the premise on which our work is based.
Can I follow that up then by saying that what we've experienced is rounds of consultation, but what your work is doing is several steps on from mere consultation and gathering opinions and then working out what the solution is?
I think there's a fundamental difference between the Change Lab approach and the consultation approach. I think the consultation approach implicitly starts with the premise that actually somebody does know the answer. Well, it starts with two premises. One, somebody knows the answer, and if we ask enough people, they'll give us the answer, then we'll write it in the report, and then we'll implement it. More fundamentally, it starts with the assumption that it's possible to know the answer before we act. And the most radical aspect of or one of the most radical aspects of the Change Lab is the notion that actually we can't know what to do here. We can't find out what to do here other than by acting. And so what's needed is not simply consultation. What's needed is some kind of learning by acting process. That it's simply not possible to figure it out only by talking about it. The most common feature in multi-stakeholder activities is you have the leaders of all the parts of the system around the table. The 100% of them come into the room saying, if only those other people would change, we'd be okay. Well, that's just not mathematically possible. So the real shift in this work is from seeing it as something out there to something I'm involved in and therefore I can impact.
It's fundamentally different to consult believing that your stakeholders have the solution than it is to bring them together, to hunt together, and to leave that space of the round table to go out and do what we call learning journeys, where teams of people go in and they interview and they observe and they see other parts of the world and other parts of their system. So we're actually creating a kind of incubator of discovery, creativity, innovation, and development that's much more process-rich and personally intensive than a simple Q&A, survey, design, create the blueprint. We specialize in groups of people coming together, co-creating new social realities, and that somehow strikes a chord that, hey, this is what we need here. I don't quite know what it means, but this is what we need. And when we screen them and interview them and talk to them, or rather just try to get to know them, we start coaching right there. Are you in the problem? Are you implicated? Are you taking responsibility? Who are the stakeholders? Can we bring them together? Is the problem a mere technical problem? Do we have what we need to address the situation?
What you need is for a leader or two or three leaders within a system to say, this isn't working. To enter into a process which is premised on not knowing requires courage on the part of the leaders or the conveners. So yes, there is a certain vulnerability in saying, I'm really concerned about this. I don't think we're getting there to where we're going. I can't figure this out by myself or solve it by myself, and will you work with me on this? And so there is, I think in our clients, there is a crucial dose of humility. And that's, not everybody's got that.
5 years ago, Sustainable Food Lab was a radical idea. Now there's 70 organizations and more banging on the door. 20 years from now, we're going to need to be in the contemporary, in 2050 or 20 years from now, 2030. So there is a real tension that I think that all the questions have sort of focused around about what are we comfortable with? Because a lot of your questions are, how do we translate this in a way that people sitting from their chairs right now are comfortable with? Well, the answer is that's a tall order, because it's the willingness to be uncomfortable, to get out of the chair and to look. That's the hallmark of even understanding this stuff.